That's the duty I owe to Brian. That's his right for effective assistance of counsel to have me do those things.
I'm realizing to think that we have to have a case so far in the future.
Ms. Taylor is not understating the amount of work that's involved in this case, Judge.
There's not a shortcut.
But if that's what is the right thing for everything, to do it correctly, because we don't want to do this twice. We don't want to do this 3 times. My heart goes out to the victims.
If your primary concern is convictions and not justice, this is probably not the channel for you. Because a lot of y'all have came onto this channel to criticize me for raising the questions I've raised. Y'all have said that this case is open and shut, that it's a done deal. Bryan Kohberger did this. Well, I got a lot of things right, and I got a couple things wrong. But either way, your eyebrow's about to be raised. And if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
So it was in this video right here where I was bringing up the point that there's a strong possibility that the defense is going to file a motion for a change of venue. A lot of y'all seem to disagree with what I was saying. Well, listen to Ann Taylor right here.
However, counsel and the court's aware that our intention is to file a motion for change of venue.
So that's straight from her mouth, that she intends to file a motion for a change of venue. Now, she may file it just on the grounds that they can't get an impartial jury in that area. Or she may file it for those reasons, plus the fact that it's such a limited window to hold this trial in Latah because of what the prosecution is saying. Now, because we're not always right here, I do have to say I got wrong at a couple things. I have had for some time the idea that the prosecution was being difficult in handing this stuff over to the defense, which I didn't personally think was right. Well, we got these statements right here.
I don't think they're sitting back on it. Our team speaks with the prosecution team fairly regularly about these issues. We communicate by text and by email about things like this that are coming up. We've sat down and spoken with them. They're very open to talking to us. And I think they're hurrying as fast as they can to give the discovery to us. So I think they're giving it to us as they get it. And I want everybody to know that I am not disparaging the state when I say this. The state will respond to us. They're not ignoring us. I'm not saying that at all. There's just a lot out there.
So she is clearly saying right there in her own words that she is getting this stuff that she is requesting, and she believes she's getting it as soon as she can, as it is being received to them. So the idea floating around on the internet that somehow the prosecution is withholding things from the defense needs to absolutely be put to bed, in my own opinion. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form the social media police. Until I hear an actual comment from the defense that the prosecution is not turning evidence over to them, I'm going to put it to bed. It does seem like anytime I make a video on Bryan Kohberger, I get a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism because people aren't seeing things the way I'm seeing them. I've raised questions about the probable cause affidavit. I have clearly said that I see holes in things and that this case isn't nearly as shut as people like to believe. And then we have these statements from the defense right here.
Clear picture that I'm concerned about is the state's pathway of how Bryan Kohberger comes to their attention and is identified. I've read that PC affidavit over and over and over again, and I'm not sure. Over a year into this case and everything I've read, and I've spoken with our team, we're not sure how the state decides on Bryan Kohberger. I know different pieces, but I don't know where they fit together. And the more work I do, the less I know about how they fit together.
She clearly says that she can't see how the prosecution has decided Bryan Kohberger did this. And she's got access to a lot more information than I do. But I absolutely agree with her. The more I read the probable cause affidavit, the more questions I have. The only difference here is that she has access to more evidence. And before you tell me that's just the defense's tactic, and she's not telling the truth. Listen to what Bill Thompson says about the case.
Granted, this is a complicated case. It is a very serious case. Ms. Taylor is not understating the amount of work that's involved in this case, Judge. I think that's fair to say, and there's more information that continues to be developed. You know, it's kind of like you ask one question, you get an answer, and that leads you to another question. I know that Ms. Taylor and her co-counsel and investigators are encountering that.
So if both these parties are saying this is a very complicated case, what is making it so complicated? If it's so open and shut like y'all believe it is, then what's complex about it? What is difficult about it? We have passings every day in this country, and not any of them that I can recall have been so shrouded by mystery like this one. So something is making this thing complex. Now, when the Drunk Turkey Show commented in one of my videos and said that the state has a lot of circumstantial evidence, it's very strong, and it's going to prove that Bryan Kohberger committed these crimes, I can partially agree with them to certain things. I do agree that the state has a lot of circumstantial evidence. Now, the strength of it, though, is where me and him will have to disagree to a degree. I simply have suspicion at this point, and I don't personally think railing for a conviction just to have a conviction is the right way to go about things in this country, or any country as a matter of fact. But a lot of people aren't seeing it that way, and this should be concerning to every single individual who believes Bryan Kohberger did this, because we got this alarming statement right here.
We have found that when we want to talk to witnesses, sometimes they don't want anything to do with us. And the witnesses that you need to speak with won't slam the door in your face.
Now, how does that not concern everybody? Now, the prosecution does get offended when Jay gets up here and makes a statement that the state is simply trying to pass somebody away. And he says this.
Lodgen said something that I think needs to be addressed. It's just simply appealing to raw emotion, and it has no place in this courtroom. We would ask that that not be allowed any further.
And he's right to a degree. Emotional driven statements and actions have no place in the courtroom. It should be nothing more than people getting together to argue what they believe to be factual information. No emotions should be driving any of this to make people say things that they shouldn't in a courtroom. But why hasn't the prosecution came out to some degree and made similar statements to these potential witnesses that the defense is trying to talk to? If everybody's ultimate goal here is to get justice and get answers, a fair trial is the only way forward. You can like or dislike Bryan Kohberger all day. That is not going to offend me. That is not going to bother me. What does bother me is there are people out there who have seen something or heard something or gave some sort of statement to the authorities, and they did it willingly. But when the defense comes to them and starts to want to ask them questions about things, they want to clam up and shut a door in their face. So all these people who are advocating for these victims, where are y'all now? Are y'all advocating for a conviction, or are you advocating for justice? Because it should be completely unacceptable. And everybody right now who makes videos on social media should be putting a video together saying this is wrong. If we want justice, talk to the defense so we can get all these answers, we can convict the right guy, and we can have a fair trial. I would personally hope that Steve Gonzalez either puts out a Facebook post or does an interview and tells these people, talk to the defense. Whatever you told the police, if the defense has a question to ask you, talk to them about it so we can move this trial forward, because all they're doing is delaying the trial. They are delaying the truth, and they are hindering the judicial process. And once again, we get comments about this supposed gag order. And she says this.
Sometimes there are people that have already talked to the media too much, and so we shouldn't talk to them or bring them into the case. So that's just a complication. We're working through it. We're working around it. But that's something that the court has to be aware of.
So is she saying key witnesses are talking to the media and that this is causing them a problem? And it seems to me at this point, and I've said it 100 times on this channel, the gag order has failed. The gag order has not done anything. It seems to me the gag order is hampering justice at this point. If we are on here wanting truth, wanting transparency, wanting a fair trial, then this nonsense needs to stop. Nobody should be slamming their door to the defense's face. Nobody should be preventing the defense from getting answers to these questions. It is absolutely unexcusable. It is a slap in the face to those 4 victims. It is a slap in the face to those victims' families. And it's a slap in the face to our judicial system. If you see any of these things differently, you can let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe. And I'll catch you in the next one.
Okay, well, thank you all. We are adjourned.